minute of play from his previous 2 games. George taking matters into his own.
With Tobias Harris, same exact play.
George rises in the mid.
Luka Doncic, he was the 33rd overall pick. 3rd of round 2. Doncic, the 3rd pick.
Low, George, Jackson, Rondo, Batum, and Patterson out there for the LA Clippers. George
played some terrific defense here with their season on the line. Paul George got back in. And hard to take out of the rotation. George fires away.
As a team to emerge from the Western Conference. Obviously that didn't happen. They didn't show well in the bubble. The Lakers won.
Pass to him maybe a little quicker, a little harder.
Thank you, Coach. Mark.
Well, DiVincenzo
directs traffic. 2 seconds left. Contested 3.
More. It opens up a lot of things for them. We saw that during that first quarter.
Starting 5 on the floor. They've led by as many.
Paul George.
Zubac is an underrated big, Matty.
9-second difference. Shot clock to game clock winding down in the 3rd. George has to hurry.
Leonard is also 1 of 2 from the field, and George working.
George pops out on the baseline off the screen.
But he's had some tremendous finishes. And Paul George right now just making plays, getting whatever.
George drives into traffic, pulls up. Paul George, step back baseline jump shot.
Can really kind of slip a little bit. So, you know, these are opportunities for the Clippers to get good
Extra up on it.
17 on 10 shots for Luka. He's now 2 of 4 on his threes. 30 inside of 3 to play. And the gamble on Paul George for the step back. In range until they can get Kawhi back on the floor. And this guy needs to fill.
Screen to an open Paul George.
He's a monster. You need bodies for him.
Possession. Isolation for George. George is fouled.
And up.
Double-double. George, Morris, and Jackson on the floor. George with it now. Shot clock at 7. Hounded by
Beverly finds George. George steps back. 3-pointer.
Clippers 66, Cavaliers 59. George contesting the Kings with 11. Paul George, the leading scorer, with 14.
Royce O'Neal on defense. George steps back.
Batum gets it right back out to George again. Shoots it.
So happy for that young man.
George has got little one-on-one.
The season that took place, and of those 9, Brooklyn, Indiana.
George.
5 seconds left. 28 in the game. And a step back 3 by.
State hasn't led since it was 3-2. Paul George with the mid-range.
With a bucket nonetheless. 15's the Magic.
An 8-4 start for the Pistons. They have alternated wins over their last 8 games and 4-4.
So Paul George with 17 points. He's also got 5 rebounds.
Still 5.5 remaining. Paul George jumps. Sure is. Especially if Paul George knocks that in.
Impact player for the Clippers last year, and Markieff was for the Lakers and won the championship. George fade.
Be interesting to see if he can get into a winning environment in Minnesota as Paul George steps away.
And then, of course, not having their best player. So they understand every game here is
More athletic, more nimble. A second shot and then a tip out already.
Leonard's got 34, but Luka's got 35. Hardaway Jr. 25.
Ended by Thornwell. They'll throw it to George with 2. George with 1. Lets it fly.
George this time on Sexton. Crossover drip.
The Nets are switching more.
Paul George, shot clock down to 5. George, a tough contested 3.
George.
Zubac sets the screen. Paul George leads the way with a dozen for 3.
Protect the basketball better. But tonight they've been.
Teams have played in the first quarter. George for 3.
That was a drive by Batum. Paul George right now defended by Hardaway. And the
ball back to George. Good closeout by Lee. Great defense.
this 3rd quarter, both teams competing on the defensive end. Nothing
away for Sacramento. George with time and space.
Paul George along 2.
Anticipating they'd have a play set up that they wanted to run, so they went 2-3 zone, not allow them to run that play.
George.
Blazers up by 6. George sizing up Hollis Jefferson. The shake.
What's left over, he'll get.
He'll get it.
So I don't think he'll be that consistent, you know.
George flips it up and rolls.
They switch more than most teams. They're small.
Crossing blades here early on in the season. Paul George.
And Leonard on top. Now they go to George. Zubac's screen. They work in.
By Beverly. An opportunity in transition for the Clippers. George for the Clippers. Plenty of time on the clock, but the 2-for-1 is possibly gone. George can't shed his defender, Shaquille Harrison, who is a very gifted perimeter defender. Now gets some assistance from Cavangeli.
In the first half when it was 6. George.
He hasn't stopped.
Joe gets tossed down. No
Opportunity to get one more bucket here to close out the first. George on a catch and shoot. Lets it.
And he's got space between the defender and it's just
high screen by
2. A spurt at the end of the opening quarter to give LA the lead. George in
7-2 run here by
to Kawhi. Gets it back to George.
Clippers had that briefly. Paul George, a corner 3.
Batum in the middle. It goes off for George. Works on.
And sometimes you do need that default veteran player to be.
Here's George against Bogdanovich on the switch. Takes the jump.
Isolation. Cantor pinching over. Now backs off.
Utah in this game.
I mean, Rudy Gobert has got 13 rebounds, yet they're still -6 on the glass.
Dallas. George gets around the hedge. Another
knocks down the jumper. He is a gifted three-point shooter. That will be a problem for the Clippers.
Wide open 3 off a made layup, and that's what just happened there.
George stops behind the three-point line.
Once again this year. George.
Paul George has Favors switch on to him. George
Signed that big contract right before the season.
passing of offensive players, and then the big man screened and rolled.
Fresno State private.
Players can understand how to do it. It's a good change of pace.
George with a game high 36. Rising up for just about every shot he's taken here in the quarter. He's 11 of 21 now for the.
He's hit a 3, and now that jump shot, and he cuts the lead down to 15. George accosted.
The Mavericks unable to put the putback into the cup.
Remember, Utah has the best record in the NBA. Clippers had the 3rd best.
George has been dealing with a toe injury. Paul George gets it off in time. Oh! Back to Rachel. George against Mikal Bridges. Brings it back out. George over Bridges.
I'm just trying to keep my concentration here, Reg, in a game that's been out of hand here for a while. And it's George bumping.
Being guarded by Emmanuel quickly. That's got to be a thrill for the young man as Paul George pull-up jumps. Paul George. George off the drag screen.
In the 44. George trying to take it at Gobert. Fade away.
George guarded by Clarkson. Rises up high, arcing shot.
Led the NBA in assists at 10.
First time in his career he led it.
In game 2, George turn.
Clippers only shoot 33% and 3 for 16 from 3.
George posting on Richardson, tries to back him down. Fades.
Win games, and I don't know how you can.
Unaware Ibaka, but he makes the recovery.
George against Jones. 74-73 Portland.
For the toughness he brings every single night is helpful to winning.
Just the little things that Rondo does, especially GA.
There's 2 other teams that tried to do that here in these playoffs and were unsuccessful.
Sustain any momentum despite the fact they're shooting 60
to get downhill, and then you see the ball moving on the other end.
George has it in his hands. Gobert jumps out on the perimeter. Hand is up.
17 in that first half in 20 minutes of play. Paul George rises.
George once again. Bogdanovich. Step back 3 in 22 minutes.
George with a screen from Patterson. Flings a
Clips #1 in offensive efficiency. And that's got a
knocking down that mid-range jumper.
George.
Batum to George.
We just know it is a knee injury. His right knee and will not return.
Bro, he's in his second year. He's already one of the top 5 players in this league.
Firing up threes of late. Misses there. Paul George back the other way. George glances at the clock, steps away, creating.
Can it all say I'm surprised by the start that they've had tonight?
Boy, Luka can do.
He's on the floor. Torrey Craig, who didn't play last game, playing.
Get ready for a 3-game road trip. It'll be Paul George.
40% shooting for the Clippers.
In and out of the lineup and has not missed a beat for this team.
Yeah, it's tough coming off the bench, being ready to play.
Runs, you turn the ball over, they will make you pay, as Brogdon did on that one.
Of work.
I mean, you know Korkmaz to be a...
Didn't expect it to be this close at all. Give Houston credit. Paul George rises.
Shot clock down to 4. George trying to shake. Hart.
Or Lou Williams or George can get to.
Leading by 10. George for 3. Got it! Rondo feeds George.